Okay, I'm going to go through the textbook project for Word Module 1. So to begin with, we will go through the Cengage Mind Tap link in our Blackboard. So we'll click on this link. It'll take us over into the Cengage site. And from there, we will click on the Word option. And we are going to go into the Word Module 1. At the top of the Word Module 1 folder, we will find the SAM textbook project. So we will click on this. We will then click on the Start button. And we should be showing that we are on step 1 of 2. And it also tells us that this project is not compatible with Office for Mac, so we have to use the Microsoft Office for Windows. The first part of this is the reading, which you don't need to do anything with. You will use your electronic textbook as you step through these this assignment, and this is just the reading, so you don't need to do anything with it. We will click on our Start file. If you're using Chrome, that typically shows up down in the status bar area, and we can click on it from there to open it up. If you're using a different web browser, you may find that in a different location, but generally, if you can't find stuff anywhere, look in a Downloads folder, and you should find it there. We'll also download our support files. In this case, it's just one, this hand washing picture. And again, I can find that in my Downloads folder. I'm going to have us go ahead and click the Continue button here. This is actually where you will show, where you will go when you're ready to submit your file that you have completed. And the reason I have you go ahead and go here right now is the expected file name is given to you here. And so I like to have you guys highlight that, and then you can right click on it and choose copy, or you can do the Control-C shortcut key. When you have your document all created and saved, then you will come back into Cengage just the way we did, come back into your textbook project for Module 1, and then you will be able to click here to upload. You'll find the file that you need. And mine is only partially done, but it will show you that it is ready to submit. You can click the Submit button, and it will tell you that everything checks out okay if you see green check marks here. If for some reason you don't see green check marks, then you're going to have to make some changes before you go ahead and submit the final project. At this time, we can click on the View Reports button. That will download a report that is in a Word document that you can just open up. You don't have to do this enable editing, but it's out of a habit for me that I do that. So your report will open up in another Word file, and it will tell you that you have submission number 1, and it will show you what your score is. So I have 46 out of 100. And then as I go down here, it will tell me that to word wrap text as you type. My guess is somewhere in this text that I was supposed to type, I have a typing error somewhere, or a punctuation error, or a spacing error of some kind. So those are things that will really you will really need to pay attention to as you go through these projects, whether they're textbook or the homework projects. So some of this other stuff you may not see that I put in because I haven't done the entire project yet. But once you have your report seen, then you will be able to, some people like to download that and save it, open it in half of their screen, and then open back up their Word document in the other half of the screen. Or you can just have them both open and toggle back and forth between them. Whatever works best for you. Some people put this report on their phone and then just refer back to it on their phone while they're doing their work on their computer screen. So whatever works best for you, but so you cannot make changes in your report because you will not be able to submit the report when you go back in to submit for your second submission. Typically, if that happens, you get a worse score than you did the first time. So do not make changes in the report. And you'll see what I mean by that here in just a little bit. So I scrolled down through here. You see the ones I got right, and then here are all the ones I didn't complete, so I got them wrong. But if we keep scrolling, you will find the actual document that you submitted. And then over here on the side, you will see some comments. So this is telling me that in step 4, it should not contain a hyperlink. So obviously that still has a hyperlink in there. I need to take that hyperlink out. And then there's somewhere additional hand washing tips should be formatted using an underline. So I haven't got to that one yet, I guess, or I skipped over it. I don't know. So anyway, you'll see all the comments here. It'll tell you exactly what step you need to go back to look for changes to make it correct. So that will be helpful for you to go through all of those. So again, do not make your changes in the report. So I'm going to close out of my report. I'm going to click the X, which is right underneath my name, right by this menu bar over here on the right hand side. That will close me out of the textbook project, where I will go back in to submit it. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to click on the Word Module 1 textbook. So we'll open up the textbook, and then this is just your introduction. This is where you can use these references, and I will try to call out some of these references as I go through and make this recording. So hopefully you can kind of get to those specific points if you're needing to find something in particular as you're watching the video instead of having to watch the entire thing. So hopefully I will be able to kind of keep up with that as I go through. You can see there's lots of different little sections here, but keep in mind that all of those are just little steps as we go through each of these. Then you have an objectives page. These are all the things that you should be able to complete after this textbook project. I'm going to go ahead and skip through some of these pages here. You will want to read through those. That just tells you a little bit about the flyer that we're creating. Each module that we have, you will have this to start your document. We can skip that part because we are starting with a downloaded file from Cengage. So what you'll just kind of have to do is look for where it's asking you to do something. So the first thing is to make sure that it's in print layout view if it's not already. Then this next section I'm going to talk about in class. So I'm not going to go over it here. So this just has us go into our view menu. I'm going to move my textbook over to the side right now so that we can open up my Word document and you can see that on my screen. Okay, the first thing that we need to do once we get our Word document opened up is do a Save As. So we're going to go to File and then choose Save As. And you will want to click the Browse button, and this will help you navigate to the specific location you want to save your documents or your schoolwork that you're working on. So I'm going to go back to my desktop because I have a folder there that I can put my things for fall in. Now, before we save this, we are going to change the file name. So you'll notice here that the file name is what was given as it was downloaded. So we can select it. You can remove it from the file name, and then you can paste it by either doing Control-V, or you can right-click and choose Paste. Now that we have the correct file name in there, we can click the Save button, and our blank document opens up. Now, most of the time when we use a start file from Cengage MindTap, it will be a blank document, especially for textbook projects. Now, as we do some of the end of the module projects, those will have some data in them, so you don't have to create the whole thing. But mostly when we're doing our textbook projects, we're going to have to basically do them from scratch. So the first thing it wants us to double check is to make sure we're in print layout view. That is down here in the lower right hand corner. You have 3 different view buttons: the read mode, the print layout, and the web layout. The middle one is highlighted with gray there, so we know that we're in print layout. If you were not in print layout, you can go to the View tab, and they have you in the at the very left section of this, you will see the print layout option there. And since I was already in that, it is highlighted with that gray outline, or gray highlight, I mean. Okay, so once we have this saved with the correct name, and we have it in the correct view, then we are going to go in to adjust our margins. So to do that, we are going to go to the Layout tab. On the far right-hand side, the far left-hand side, you will see the Margins option. We can click that drop-down arrow there. You'll see different options. We're going to choose Narrow for this step. The other thing that I need to make sure that we have, and it typically is when you download a start file, is that back on our home ribbon, that the normal style is the selected style. And like I said, 98% of the time, 99% of the time, that is already going to be selected to normal style. We are going to type in our heading. When you're working with flyers, you have a heading, you have a body, and then you have a signature line. And your textbook will give you more information about that as you read through that. So we are going to type "wash your hands," and we need to make sure we put that exclamation mark behind it. We will press the Enter key. They have us change this so that we are zoomed to page width. And what that's going to do is make this page take up the entire screen. Do you see all these light gray out here? This is area where we could have our document showing, so it makes it a little bit larger on our screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our View tab, and then in the Zoom section, we will click the Page Width option. So you saw my paper in that page layout view expanded to take up basically that full width of the screen. We'll go back to our home ribbon. On the home ribbon, in the paragraph section of the home ribbon, we are going to select this Show Hide button. This is actually a proofreader's mark for putting in a paragraph. And so the Show Hide, it's a toggle button, so it's either on or off. When you have it turned on, you will see little dots between words where you have pressed the space bar. Once you get to the end of a paragraph and you've pressed the Enter key, you will see this paragraph sign show up to indicate that you have pressed the Enter key. Now, the textbook typically has us work with this on. Sometimes they bother me, and so I go ahead and turn them off. But a lot of times when I'm finishing a document or proofreading it over at the last time, for the last time, I like to turn those on to make sure all my spacing is correct and everything. We are going to make sure that our insertion point is on the second row here in front of that second paragraph sign, and we're going to type the sentence that goes below our heading here. Once you get that all typed in there, just double check it and make sure that there's not spelling errors. Then we will go ahead and press the Enter key because that is all going to be one paragraph below our heading. I'm in section, what section am I in here? I will have to look at my electronic textbook for that because I keep forgetting to mention where I'm at here. Oops. Okay, so this is section 1-5G, where I'm going to start entering more text. This text is, we're going to type it with some spelling and grammar errors so that we can see the spelling and grammar check work. That is in the reading there that I've just kind of skipped over that. You guys can do the reading information on your own. So by me just going through the steps, it'll make this go a little bit faster, hopefully. All right, so after we've typed our second paragraph there, we're going to do the top section of our flyer, which is the how, and we're going to number those steps a little bit later on. So we're going to type how with a question mark. We'll press our Enter key, and then we're going to type our directions for washing our hands. So this is where we are going to type some spelling errors. So we're going to type clean, C-L-E-N. We'll put a period at the end of that. The next sentence is lather. Press your Enter key, and we'll type that next sentence. All right, so once we have those sentence is typed there. If we go back and look at it, you will see that you have some things that have been underlined. And most of you probably know how to use your spell check, grammar check. So what we're going to do is we'll go to the word that's supposed to be clean. And if you right-click on that flagged word, then you should see an option for the correct spelling of clean. So we can click on that, and it will change it to the correct spelling. Now, the word for, F-O-R-E, in your textbook, it is showing that it should be underlined with 2 blue underlines, which is a potential grammar error. Mine is not popping up with an error. Didn't do it the first time I did this either. So we probably just want to go ahead and make sure we take that E out of the word for. And then rinse soap off of hands. And this is the potential word choice issue that's flagged with a gold dotted underline. Now, I don't know about you, but the gold dotted is a little difficult for me to recognize. But again, when you see anything that is flagged like this, you'll know it's something from the spelling and grammar checker. So their suggestion is to just use the word off and not off of. So we can choose the option to just make that off. And then the last one here, we have used a word twice in a row. So it's just going to have us delete the repeated word. All right, so now you can click at the very end of that last row, or you can press your Enter key on your keyboard to move to that location. We're going to press our Enter key once, so we are on to the next row. But between this numbered paragraphs that we've just typed in and the bottom part, which is going to be bulleted paragraphs, we are going to leave space for our picture. So we want to press the Enter key one more time, and this is where we'll start typing the second part of our flyer. So this blank line that we left right here, this is where we're going to come back and put our picture in a little bit later on. Oh, I forgot to type when. So this should be when, question mark. Now these are going to be bulleted points, so they are not going to have any punctuation with them. Alright, so you might want to check those for any spelling errors that you might have committed or grammar errors. And then the very last line is what we call our signature line. And so this is where we're going to type for them to visit the website, www.foodworkers.com. Now, this one does have a period at the end. So, again, that's our signature line. In your textbook, there's a little bit of reading at this point, and they do have us save the document. Again, make sure you read through that. of how to save a document for the first time in the Backstage view. Okay, so then it goes on to talk about formatting paragraphs and characters and fonts and font sizes and themes. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to change the theme of our entire document. Themes are just preset. It's a combination of formatting, fonts, colors, the pictures, how they come in. So it's preset coordinating formats, fonts, things like that. The colors also change depending on which document theme that we use. So what we're going to do is they have you use Control Home if you're following along in your textbook. And we are on, let me get to the section that we are at. Okay, we are on section 1-6B. So we are going to change the document theme. So in your textbook, they have you press the Control Home so that your cursor goes back to the top of your document here that we're working with. That's a quick way to get up to the top of the document. So we're going to go to the Design ribbon, and then on the far left-hand side, you'll see the Themes button. We can click that drop-down arrow and we'll see the gallery of all the different themes. And we are going to choose the slate. So on mine, I have to scroll down to the next to the bottom row of in the gallery there. So I'm going to choose slate. You'll see that the font changes. If I hit my undo, notice that this is a sans serif font. It doesn't have a little, I like to call them feet or lines at the top or bottom where it looks a little bit more decorative. So if I change this back to the slate theme, you'll see the font changes and I have the little serifs on each of the letters. To center our headline, we are going to click somewhere in this paragraph. Now I know this is only 3 words, but anytime you press the Enter key and you see that paragraph sign at the end of a line, that lets you know that that line is an entire paragraph according to Microsoft Office. You probably won't get away with that if you're talking about paragraphs for your English class. So just make sure that you understand that it's a paragraph only in Microsoft Office. So while we are somewhere in the heading, wash your hands, Microsoft Office has the character formatting and the paragraph formatting. Since we are going to perform a format that applies to an entire paragraph, we do not have to select the specific words. Since we're going to center it, it's going to do that for the entire paragraph. Your character formatting is only going to apply to one word, one character, and so on. So somewhere in this heading, we'll come back to the Home ribbon, and we're going to change it to Center Alignment. You can also press Control-E if you know that as a keyboard option. We're also going to click on the second paragraph here. This is also going to be a centered paragraph. So while we have our home ribbon showing here, we'll go ahead and click the center icon to center that second paragraph as well. The next thing we're going to do is select an entire line with clicking our mouse. So if you put your mouse, which is typically an I-beam, over to the far left edge in the margin area, you will see that your mouse turns into a white arrow and it's kind of pointing back to the right. Once you have that icon showing, you can click with your mouse and it will select that entire line of text. Now, the really cool thing about that is you can also use that right pointing arrow to select multiple lines as well. So that's kind of a nice thing to do. I'm sure you guys have all played the game of going back and forth on your screen before, trying to get something selected. So this is kind of handy to know how to use that to select an entire line in your document that you're working on. Okay, on to section 1-6G, changing the font size of the selected text. So while we still have our heading selected, we are going to change this to a 36-point font. Let me get back to this. So we have our heading selected here. There's a couple different ways you can do it. You can use the drop-down arrow here for the font size and choose 36. Or you can use your increase font size button, which is just to the right of your font size, and it will increase to the size you need it to be. Those increments, every time you click on the increase font, it goes in the same order as this. So if you started out with 11-point font like we did, it would go to 12, 14, 16, 18, 22, and so we'd have to click it a lot to get to 36. So a lot of times it's easier just to use your scroll bar and come down to 36. The other thing that you can do is you can come right up here and type in 36 and it will change your font size to 36. The other thing we're going to do while we have this selected is we're going to change the font to Rockwell Extra Bold. Now, because I've been working with this on my computer, Rockwell Extra Bold is there in the recently used. Yours probably isn't. So when you have this Callisto MT font selected, you can type Rockwell, and then if you press your Enter key, well, let me try that again. Okay, let me try this. Okay, so I just started typing SC so I could get to that section. So you'll see how when you start typing, it takes you to the section where your font should be or should be close to it. I still have Rockwell Extra Bold up here, so I'm going to just choose that while I'm in that drop-down arrow button there. And then we'll move on to changing the case of the selected text. So again, we should still have this heading selected. And to change the case, they have made this very easy. Used to this process took a little while because to get into making it all uppercase, you had to go into a dialog box and then click on the right tab and make sure you were where you needed to be and set this to all uppercase. But they have put this this change case tool on our home ribbon, and that's in the font section. So it's really nice and handy there. We'll go and just make this uppercase. So now everything is uppercase on our heading. 1-6J shows us how to apply a preset text effect to selected text. So while we still have our wash your hands selected, we are going to go to our text effects. The text effects are in the font section of our home ribbon, and it is labeled with the white A that kind of has a blue glowing on the outside of it. So we will click on the button there for the text effect options, and we are going to choose fill white, so that means your lettering is going to be white, outline brown, and then we're going to have an accent color of 1, which is a brown accent color. Accent color 1 for our glow. I'm sorry, I'm reading this wrong. The fill is white, the outline is brown accent color 1, the glow is going to be brown accent color 1. So what we're going to do is, while we have this selected here in our text effects, this is the option we want. So the fill is white, the outline is brown accent 1, and then the glow is the brown accent color 1. So we'll select that, and now your text looks like it is kind of empty, but remember we have it set to a white font, and that's supposed to be brown around that, but it always looks more red to me on my screen. So the next thing we're going to do is we're still going to be working with our paragraph up here. We're going to learn how to shade an entire paragraph with our shading option. So to shade a paragraph, we're going to be somewhere in the paragraph, and then in our paragraph section, you will see the drop-down paint, or the tipping over paint can. This is what is called the your shading button. So when we click on it, you will see, you got to click on the arrow, you will see a palette of colors show up. Since this is the first time we've worked with the palette of colors, I will just take a few seconds to explain this to you. In every theme that we have, there are 6 accent colors. So the very last one is your accent color 6. And then you have 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So you can see at the beginning there are 4 columns that are not theme colors. Those 4 columns represent our background 1, which is typically white, because that's what our Word documents come in. The second option is our black text. So that's going to be a font or a text color. And then you'll have a light gray, which is a background, and then another black, or they call it black. What's it called? A dark gray, but it looks black. Okay, so that is how your theme colors are. You will have that in all of your colors that you choose from, whether it be fonts, boarding, or shading, or whatever. So we want to select our heading up here. And we don't have to hold that whole thing selected, but we kind of still are there. So we'll click on the drop down arrow, and we want to choose what did I do? Go backwards? Okay, so we're going to go to have this selected, and then in our shading tool, we are going to go to what is called Brown Accent 4. Now, I just told you that there are 6 accent colors. So you could start here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 4th column is my Brown Accent 4. So what I want to do with this now is explain what all of that the boxes are below each one of those. So it kind of looks like you're in a paint shop and getting different shades of paint here. But what they've done is they have made several lighter options and a couple of darker options. So you'll see the very top one, which is very faint, has the color that is 80% lighter. So they've taken a lot of color out of that. The next one is 60% of the color lighter, the original. And then the third one down is your original, the original color minus, reduced lighter 40%. Now the last two are darker options, so you have darker 25% and darker 50%. So we're going to choose the darker 25% option. And then we are going to select the paragraph that is below our shaded paragraph here. So we want to select washing your hands with soap and water. So there's a couple of different, there's probably more than a couple different ways you can do this. We can start at the beginning of the paragraph and click and drag through it. We could come out here to the margin and use our right pointing arrow to change the color, the scheme of all of that, if we want to. But what we have decided that we want to do is we're going to select this paragraph. And the way that they have you do it in the textbook is by using a triple click. So you can triple click a word in your paragraph and it will actually select your entire paragraph for you. So that's just a little something that you probably don't have to know, but it's kind of cool to know it and to be able to do that. While our heading is still selected, we would like to change the font color. So, get back to our heading here. Alright, so we have our text selected here, which is the first paragraph underneath our heading, and we want to change the font color to red accent 5, darker 25%. So we'll come up here to our font text colors. This one has a red rectangle below it to show you that red would have been the last color that someone had used on the computer for fonts. So what we want to do is we know that this is a accent 5, so we're going to go next to the end, which is accent 6. So we are wanting this accent 5, and we want to choose the darker 25%. So now this text is this red accent 5, darker 40%. And so it's a little bit difficult to see on the screen there, but if you were to print this, you probably would notice that it might be show up a little bit darker. And because of that, sometimes you might have some issues getting things exactly, well, having them look exactly like you think they're supposed to look. But what I need you to do is just make sure that you have the correct option selected based on holding your mouse over it and getting the correct screen tip. Okay, on to section 1-6N to change the font size. So if you still don't have that paragraph selected, go ahead and get it reselected. And then we're going to change the font size to 22. And then in 1-6O, they have us change the zoom. And they have us change it to 120%. Mine's at 149 or 194 because I just have a really big screen. But if you look at it in the zoom view that they want you to, then your textbook will help you follow along exactly as it's supposed to be. We are going to select our numbered questions first. So to select these multiple lines, what they have us do is use our mouse that turns into the right. Maybe it does. No, there we go. I had something selected. So we're going to put our mouse over into the left margin. We'll turn into that white arrow, and we're going to click and drag all the way down through dry hands, whatever that is, sentence there. Okay. So I got to get this correct. We are selecting all of our text here because we are going to set this text to a specific size. So while we have this all selected, we are going to change it from the 24 or 26 that it's been set at, and we're going to change the font size to 20. So it's going to look a little bit bigger than the 16 font that we had earlier. Now, so all of our text is put in, and so this is what our document looks like right now. So we are going to put a numbered list. This is 1-6R. We will select our text that we're wanting to format. So in this case, it is the wet hands through the dry hands while using a towel or air dryer. So we want those lines selected. And then while we have those selected, we are going to come up to the paragraph section on our home ribbon, and you will see little check boxes there of if you want to click on the bulletin item, you can. If you want to click on the numbered item, you can do that as well. If you don't want the default that they're going to put in, then you can use your drop down and again choose one of those presets to add to your document. So what we want is we just want the 1, 2, 3. So we'll click on that and you'll see those 5 items pop up with an indentation, and they are in order they're numbered 1 through 5 in the order that we type them in. Okay, so we've got that list, that numeric list in. The next thing in your textbook talks about undo and redo. Undo is Control-Z. I hardly ever do an undo any other way. The shortcut for redo is Control-T for Tom. All right, if we move on to the next part of this, we are going to add a bulleted list to the 5 paragraphs at the end. So your bulleted list is just, it's going to look very similar to the numbered list, but instead of having numeric values, it will just have like a little square or circle or whatever you have set up. So once we have these selected, we can click the bullet button. What is that word? You can click the bullet button up here in the paragraph section, and you'll see it puts little circular bullets in there, and it lines them all up exactly as they need to be. Section 1-6U talks about auto formatting as you type. And what it talks about in this section is, as we typed our website down here, www.foodworkers.com, anytime you have what looks to be a website or an email address, Word automatically will put a red underline, or an underline under it, and change its color. Now, and typically that has been blue in the past, since we are using this virtual, since we are using this, and it is the, the design theme we changed, then you will see that it's red and not blue. But most of the time they're going to come in with that blue color that you see when you're using the standard text and stuff. So to remove the hyperlink, all we have to do is find our hyperlink here. We're going to right click, and then you will see where it says remove hyperlink. So once we've removed the hyperlink, then the text changes back to just be normal text in our document. We are now ready to center another paragraph. We want our heading, our signature line down here to be centered. So while we have that centered, we can either do Control-E on the computer keyboard. We can come back to our home ribbon and choose center. And so that was a pretty easy option there. And the next section talks about using the mini toolbar. When you have a row selected, your mini toolbar will typically pop up. If you don't use it right away, it does disappear. If you decide, oh, hey, I wanted what was in that mini toolbar, then you can right-click in what you typed in, and it will give you a shortcut menu that pops up or down depending on how much space you have. And then so we have this selected. If you do a right click, you will see the shortcut menu pop up. In this case, the mini toolbar shows up on the bottom. If I were to scroll up in my document, those could be reversed, but it doesn't really matter. Here's your mini toolbar. You can see all the different options that you have here. So you can change font, bold, italics, highlight, whatever. So what we want to do is select, starting with additional. You do not want the space, that little dot in front of additional. So we're going to just click and drag additional hand washing tips. Okay, so we need to select additional handwriting tips. However you want to do that, click and drag through that. While these words are selected, we do want to choose the underline. So again, you could use your mini toolbar for this. So you'll see right there is the underline, and simple, your step in that has been taken care of. 1-6 AA, to italicize text, we are going to italicize the word prevent. So up here in our secondary paragraph here, we're going to say because it can prevent, and so in prevent, we're going to kind of draw some attention to that by making it italicized. So prevent is now italicized. WD 1-6AB is selecting non-adjacent text. And this is sometimes a little bit tricky for students. So you have to click and drag through the first selection, hold your control key down, and then click and drag with the second selection so that you can select two different parts of your text. I'm going to show you something here. So I'm going to just click and drag through the first heading here, and then if I go ahead and I hold my control key down like I'm supposed to, and then I want to click and drag over the dry hands. Now what happens is sometimes we don't get that control key held down. Sometimes we're shaky with our mouse and we move stuff before we want to. So if you find that selecting non-adjacent text is more difficult than you want it to be, you can practice if you want to, but sometimes it's just easier to do one thing at a time, even if you have to repeat some steps. We are going to select the word wet. And then we are going to select the word lather right below that. So we have the word wet selected. We will hold our control key down, click and drag across lather. Then we'll select scrub, rinse, and dry. Now that we have those selected, we are going to change those to bold. So if you don't know, Control B is bold. You can also come up here to the ribbon in the font section and change it to bold there. In your textbook on the next page shows you how to select text in different ways. So you'll have a table there that shows you some different techniques of selecting different text or a non-adjacent text. So, alright, so they have you save your document at this point. So since we already have it saved, we know where we want it. We can click the Save button up here on our Quick Access toolbar. And I am following along with the textbook, and it says that it is a break point now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this recording. I'm going to put this recording out for you, and then I'm going to do the second part of this in a second recording.